Hello and welcome, future Dolphins. Congratulations on your recent admission to our school. My name is Jeanette and I'm a fourth year student here at CSU Channel Islands. Today we will be highlighting Spanish, and here with us today we have Dr. Stephen Clark, professor in the Spanish department here at CSU Channel Islands. Hello, Dr. Clark, how are you?
Very well, thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here with our future Dolphins y un saludo muy cordial a los futuros delfines.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we get started, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the Spanish program.
Well, I'm the chair of the Spanish program. This semester, I'm serving as the interim chair, and I've been a professor at Channel Islands for about 14 years. And our Spanish program has been in existence for maybe a few more years than that, but we're a new university, we're a new Spanish program, we're still growing and adding new programs. And so I think what's really interesting about our program, just from a general overview, is you can study Spanish as a major, and you can also get a certificate in translation and a certificate in interpretation, medical interpretation. So it's almost like if you get a major and take classes in those other disciplines, interpretation and translation, you graduate with three, I guess you could say, recognitions or important credentials, not just one. So it's a really, really strong program that prepares you not just to know Spanish and about the history and the literature, but to use the language in the real world, and in a lot of good opportunities for work in those fields right now.
Thank you. And I know we touched on this a little bit about the options with the major, but could you tell us some of the most popular courses?
Sure, I'd be happy to. We have a lot of interesting courses in the Spanish major, not just your traditional grammar and vocabulary and things like that, but we have what you call interdisciplinary courses, which combine Spanish with other disciplines. For example, one of our new courses, which is really popular, is called Film of the Hispanic World. And so that course is offered through the Spanish program, but also through the art program. And it sort of teaches students about the Spanish-speaking world through movies. And it also helps us understand how movies are made and the stories behind the films in a lot of countries that we typically don't hear a lot about, like and like Uruguay. And we watch films made in these countries, and it really opens up a new world to us about a country that maybe not typically comes up in a Spanish literature course because they're smaller countries and not as well known. So that's a real popular one. Another one which students have really found to be helpful for their future is called Service Learning Capstone in Spanish, where the students get to work as a volunteer doing a project for a community partner organization, which is a nonprofit organization that needs people to help reach out to the Spanish-speaking community in areas such as healthcare, or in areas such as literacy, teaching reading, basic reading and writing in Spanish to immigrants from southern Mexico who speak indigenous languages. So we partner with a lot of local organizations that do great things, and that's a really good help on your resume for graduation, to say that you've done a semester-long project working in the community, and you really have become a professional, not just in the classroom, but outside of the classroom. What else do we have? We have courses, special topics courses. I think for the fall, we're planning, if everything goes as planned, we have a new professor who just got her PhD from UCLA, and she's planning to offer a course on Netflix in Mexico, using sort of that platform to show different stories about Mexico, which people might not have heard of through the documentaries and the films that are on Netflix about Mexico. And so that's another one, special topics, which varies depending who's teaching it. I teach it sometimes about Cuban literature and culture. And I should probably mention, we're talking about popular courses. One of our very popular courses is University 392, which counts towards a Spanish major, but it's a study abroad option where students can go for a short-term study abroad program. We've been going to Spain quite a bit recently with Professor Jimenez, and that's a summer program where students get to live with a Spanish family and take courses and then do service projects in Spain. That's a very popular course also. And I think some of our most popular courses nowadays are interpretation courses because there's so much demand in the job market for people who can serve in the medical field, helping doctors and patients to understand themselves better. So I think it's really a broad variety, and students have a lot of choices when they do a Spanish major and what areas they want to focus on.
So I understand that the university does offer some study abroad options, and I believe you've touched on that a little bit, but would you be able to elaborate on that for us?
Yeah, thanks for asking, because we actually have this great program through the Cal State system. It's called CSU IP International Programs, where students can go for a year and they can basically do their whole Spanish major, almost entire Spanish major, in Spain, either in Madrid or in Granada in southern Spain, or in Chile as another option, or in Mexico as another option. So you pay the same tuition that you pay at Channel Islands, and a lot of times the cost to go to school in one of those, cost of living, room and board and things like that, can even be less than in the US. So that's a really great opportunity to expand your horizons and then get on your resume international experience. So I think that's something that students could really look into if they're thinking about a Spanish major or a Spanish minor, is the CSU IP international programs. And then you just pick the countries, Chile, Spain, or Mexico, and see what options there are for you.
And the cool thing about that for students is that they're still able to fulfill their requirements for CSU Channel Islands, correct?
Right, exactly. So, we fill out a form that says they're going to take this course in Spain, and it's going to count for this course in Channel Islands. So it's made to help students, go over there knowing that, what they take is going to count when they get back.
Thank you for that. And kind of backtracking before we get more into very heavy course based, is there any type of academic background that a student should have to enter the major aside from general knowledge with the language?
Well, most of our Spanish majors and minors, they tend to come in at the intermediate level. So I would say it's recommended to have some Spanish knowledge. You can start at Spanish 101, but it will be a little bit more difficult to do all the coursework in the time that you have on campus, because you have a lot of other requirements. But we have introductory, intermediate Spanish. Most of our majors have some background in Spanish. They start at the intermediate level. And we also accept a lot of students who come with transfer credit or credit from AP exams, which gives them some of their requirements, takes care of some of their lower and even some upper division requirements. So if you have an AP exam credit, depending on your score, that can help you reduce the number of hours for your overall major. But basically, anyone who's interested in Spanish, we encourage you to pursue it, because nowadays it's a really useful language to know.
And so once in the program, aside from the service learning capstone that you touched upon earlier, is there any type of other hands-on learning, such as undergraduate research or internships that are offered?
We do undergraduate research with our students also. This summer, Professor Becerra, who I mentioned, who just graduated from UCLA, I think last year or the year before, she's going to be doing a student research project in which they will be using social media information from Mexico to track what's happening with cultural and social movements in Mexico City, I think specifically. And I think a couple years ago, Professor Gonzalez he did a summer student research project focusing on women's health in Ventura County in terms of providing services to Spanish-speaking women about topics such as postpartum depression and postpartum disorders, and to provide information in Spanish about how to get help and what these disorders are all about. And he worked with students from the interpretation and translation courses to prepare those materials. So those are some examples that we've had recently. So a lot of our students in our other capstone course, which is Spanish capstone, it's more of a research-based course, and they do an academic project, and quite a few of them have used that academic project as a way to later go on to graduate school and use that sort of as a writing sample to send to say, look, I'm ready for graduate school because I've done a major academic project on Spanish literature or culture. And we just this year, just a couple of weeks ago, we invited to our Spanish program over Zoom a brand new professor of Spanish at a college in Iowa who graduated from our Spanish program about 7 years ago. And she went on to get her PhD at UC Irvine. And now her sister's just working on her dissertation at UC Irvine as well, along with another graduate from a couple of years after the two sisters graduated. So a lot of our students use the capstone courses or the summer research opportunity with professors to really sort of give them more in-depth knowledge, and that's very helpful for going on to graduate school.
And aside from, I know a lot of the time people might think that going into the Spanish program means that you want to be a Spanish teacher, but what would you say are other job opportunities for those types of students?
Well, nowadays, the number one, probably most attractive field for Spanish majors, perhaps other than education, is translation and interpretation. And I have the statistics just in front of me here, but in 2017, San Diego University of California, San Diego published a study called Emerging Careers, and the number one career nationally in terms of increased employment opportunities in the coming years, which is going to increase by 31% according to their projections from 2016 to 2026, is translation and interpretation. So that's nationwide according to UC San Diego. Number one emerging career is translation and interpretation. And you can just see, when you look at the statistics, in the United States, this was from 2015, the language industry as a whole, which refers to translation and interpretation and people who work in companies to help them market their products to different markets around the world, 1 in 5 jobs in the US is tied to international trade, and the language industry employs about 200,000 Americans. That's from 2015. And the average annual median wage was $80,000 in 2015 for people working in the language industry, which broadly conceived is translation and interpretation. So there's a lot of opportunities in business. There's a lot of opportunities in government, in nonprofit, in teaching, and obviously medical field, because there's more and more demand for interpretation. Nowadays, there are many more virtual office visits, and interpreters, I think, will be much more in demand because it's much easier for someone to be assisted virtually than to have a physical interpreter in the doctor's office. So the opportunities are really growing in the medical field as well for medical and healthcare interpretation.
That's great, thank you. And so you've mentioned a variety of classes that are offered throughout the Spanish program. What would you say are your favorite classes to teach?
Well, I really enjoy teaching culture and civilization of Latin America, just because there's so many different countries there, so many different cultures, so many different unexplored regions that many Americans haven't been to before. Even we in Southern California, where we're so international, a lot of times we don't have on our radar a lot of these smaller countries, less well-known countries. And so I really love that course because we talk about not just the history and the big events and the names and the dates, but we talk about the music and the art and the films and the literature and the food and everything that makes culture and travel such a fascinating field. I also really enjoy teaching literature because it's another way to travel to other places. And also, I like to teach translation. I teach literary translation because I'm a translator also. I translate literature from Spanish to English. So I've really enjoyed doing that because it helps me to meet other people and to learn about other life stories and other amazing things that happen in other countries around the world. So those are probably my top courses that I enjoy.
Great, thank you. And so once students are on campus and they're getting super excited about the Spanish program and the classes that are offered, are there any clubs that students can join outside of just being a part of the program?
Well, we actually have a Spanish club that really has done a lot of work in recent years in organizing a big event we have every spring, which is called Noche de Fiesta, where we have a group from a Latin American country or a Latin American style of music that comes, and we serve food from that style, from that country. And that's called El Club de Español. And then we have also opportunities for students to serve, for example, as tutors for the Spanish program to get a little more experience on their resume. And we also have just a lot of great community, I would say, in our classes where the students sort of become close friends because we're a small program compared to big programs. We're a small program. We have maybe 100 or so majors in Spanish right now as a round number. And so you're taking a lot of your courses with the same people, you get to know them well. And it's just sort of like a major where you're going to know everybody pretty much. And it really, students have commented that it makes them feel like part of a community. So I think they really enjoy that also.
Great. And so as we're starting to wrap up here, is there any general advice that you can offer a student who is just beginning their studies at CSUCI?
Yeah, I would say number one, reach out to the professors for help whenever you feel overwhelmed or you don't understand something, because a lot of times it can be intimidating. I got a call recently from my sister and her daughter, my niece, is going to college, and she was really scared to ask her professors for letters of recommendation. And I told her, that's what professors are here for. And so we're used to that and we enjoy that because that means, if someone's asking for a letter of recommendation, that means they want to go on and do something great with their life, either in graduate school or a job. And that's why we're here, to help you move on. So make sure you go to your professor's office hours and get help and say, I didn't understand this question on the quiz, and can we go over that or whatever? Because that's really a great resource. So number one, don't be afraid of your professors. We're here to help you. So that would be my number one tip.
And how would you describe the professors in the Spanish program?
Well, it's really a great program because we have wonderful professors from all over the Spanish-speaking world. We have a professor from Spain, Professor Jimenez. We have a professor who was born in Argentina, raised in the US, parents from Argentina. We have a professor from El Salvador, and we have a professor from Colombia. And we have, I believe, 2 or 3 professors from Mexico. And I hope I covered them all. But you get to hear different kinds of Spanish and learn different words. And so it's really really a diverse faculty that you get to interact with. And I think all of our professors have one thing in common, and that's we really like what we're doing and we enjoy teaching, and we're here for the students. So let us know if we can help.
Great, thank you. And is there anything else that you would like to mention about the Spanish program that maybe we haven't already covered here?
Let me look through my notes here and see if I forgot something. I guess I'll just finish with a famous quote by which I like to share sometimes with students at Admitted Dolphins Day or at the transfer student orientation or at the freshman student orientation. And it's a quote from a Spanish king from a long time ago. And he has a lot of famous quotes, but he was one of the first proponents of speaking more than one language, of bilingualism. He spoke, I think, 4 languages. His name was Carlos Quinto. You may have heard of a famous candy bar in Mexico called Carlos Quinto, Charles V. And his famous quote is, "Tantas lenguas hablas, tanto vales," which means the more languages you speak, the richer you are as a person, and the more you can give back to the world as a bridge between cultures. So I would say that's what I would like to finish with. Tantas lenguas hablas, tanto vales. A language makes you a richer person and makes you able to give back more to the world. So I guess that would be my final closing thought.
Thank you so much, Dr. Clark. And students, if you have any more questions about the Spanish program, please visit go.csuci.edu/academics. Bye, and we hope to see you soon in the fall.
Adios.